So we're here with the Director of Preparedness Operations, Leigh Miller. Good morning to you, Leigh.
Yeah, howdy, Daniel.
And welcome along as a live streaming interview. And first of all, we're going to talk about codes of practice, which you were involved in earlier in the year.
Yes.
But I'm first of all interested of knowing your position and what you oversee. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, Preparedness Operation looks after some of the traditional prevention activities of the fire service. We look after development control in the built and bushfire environment throughout South Australia. We look at the bushfire management planning arrangements in the state, and we also look after some of the legislative requirements of the Fire and Emergency Services Act, like the establishment of the fire danger season, training of permit officers, training of fire prevention officers to undertake their job as well.
And within the CFS, how is your team sort of structured?
Well, we have a team based in three separate areas. One, the Bushfire Management Planning Group, which works out of headquarters. We have the Development Assessment Group, which works out of Mount Barker. And we have a couple of other people who work in headquarters to look after the legislative and fire prevention officer training functions.
And now let's talk about the codes of practice. They were released in April. Can you tell us a little bit about them and who was involved in bringing them together?
Yeah, the three codes of practice we've released came out of the Cherryville fire from the 9th of May 2013, a fire that was started by somebody burning off a pile of vegetation after the fire danger season. There are no restrictions under the fire danger season after the end of the fire danger season, so that was seen as a bit of an issue. The State Bushfire Coordination Committee undertook a review of that process, and they said, look, we've got a problem here. We need to think about how we control fires that are undertaken outside the fire season. Broadacre burning is a prime one, vegetation pile burning is another, and the use of metal cutting tools and welding is another. On average, CFS attends about 310 fires every year associated with these activities.
And so you put these in place in April. How were they received?
Yeah, we worked probably about 12 months putting them together. We did some consultation with industry groups beforehand, so we made sure we got a draft pretty close to what we wanted. Then we went out for public consultation for a month after we had the draft ready. And we got in total probably about 30 pieces of correspondence with these codes, and then we managed the codes then to meet those expectations. And the State Bushfire Coordination Committee adopted those three codes in April this year, and now they're out in place for a 12-month trial period, and we'll be looking at them again after the 2015-16 fire danger season.
So you've called them a code of practice. How legally binding are these codes of practice? What do they actually mean for the average farmer or the average CFS volunteer that may have something to do with them?
Yeah, these aren't legally binding codes of practice. They are voluntary codes of practice, but they're put in place to provide guidance to any landholder who might be thinking about undertaking these activities. One of the things that we have found, though, is that the police, the South Australian Police, when they investigate any fires, they'll consider whether that landholder has been adhering to the code of practice that's in place, and they'll consider then whether they need to lay any charges or anything.
So it's not necessarily a strict fine if you break the code of practice as such?
Look, there are some policing processes that the police manage there. I'm not sure exactly what the penalties are for these types of things, but primarily what we're trying to do is get people to think about doing these tasks safely, and a lot of peer group pressure is applied through the introduction of these codes. We found with the introduction of the grain harvesting code of practice that we've reduced the amount of damage that's been done by fires getting out of control from grain harvesting. We've reduced the number of fires that start. And this is all in the face of having about a million hectares more of land under production since we introduced those codes in 2008.
And they've been in place a few months now. How long will it be before you get an idea as to how well they're working?
Well, we probably won't notice any change until people start thinking about burning, maybe in September, October this year. Then people will start to think about how they can use those codes and apply it to their burning. And after this summer, we'll engage with the community and the industry groups again to see how practical these codes were.
And you mentioned before the grain harvesting code of practice. I believe that's under review.
Yes, it is. It was on our target to review that code in 2015, and we're just about to write to the chiefs of PIRSA, Grain Producers SA and Grain Producers SA to get their agreement to go partnership to release this code for comment from the community.
So there's already been a code that's been in place for a few years. Is that something that's worked well?
Yes, that's been in place since I think about 2008, and like I mentioned before, we've seen a reduction in fire starts and damage caused through harvesting fires. One of the interesting things that's come out of the data we've been collecting is that most of the fires tend to be associated with maintenance of equipment, and so what we're looking to do in concert with Grain Producers SA is to look at how we can encourage the industry to be more mindful about maintenance of equipment.
Okay. Well, Leigh, thank you for your time. I'm sure we'll have you back here at another point and we can talk about your long career within the CFS, but until then, thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.